Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we have a pretty big and pretty kind of crazy story and turn of events regarding this whole story that just kept coming out and coming out and coming out as the day went on today. This is once again regarding the LEC. It's regarding G2 and the most recent Carlos situation. You can't really talk about G2 right now without talking about all the craziness that has been happening. Carlos getting 8 weeks without pay and then ending up stepping down as a CEO. And now there's just more and more stuff coming out. And this led to a front page post on the League of Legends subreddit involving esports maniacos or esport maniacos and some of the news and things that they were hearing. I tweeted out this. I said esport. I put esports maniacos, but I guess it's only esport maniacos. I always mess it up. Esport maniacos has claimed in a recent stream, according to Reddit, I hardly understand Spanish. Hey, I took 2 years of Spanish in high school, and then I took 3 semesters of Spanish in college, so I'm supposed to be conversational. I'm definitely not, but I definitely understand some words. But this was like a 40-minute bit that they had about this whole thing, and they lose me so quick on that. I can understand words here and there and kind of understand the general context of what they're talking about. I don't know enough to be making up like all the sentences and all the paragraphs and making sense of it. There's just no way. I'd have to watch it in like mega slow-mo and then still only understand a couple words. But what I said is, hey, this could be wrong. This is a translation from Reddit. Carlos was forced to sell his shares of G2 to keep the team in the LEC, not just step down as CEO, because that is something that a lot of people were asking. Even when I posted the video of Carlos stepping down as a G2 CEO, people were like, oh, okay, well, he's stepping down as a CEO, but he probably still has a bunch of shares, so, he's probably still making a ton of money, so who cares? He's going to be fine. And yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if he was going to have to sell his shares or not. I will say that something Devin Nash talked about in his recent YouTube video was the fact that G2 was actually co-founded. Carlos was not like the 100% owner. Carlos was not the only founder. There were 2 founders, Carlos and then some guy named like Jen or Jens or something like that. Jens Holger, I think is his name. So Carlos, Devin Nash speculates that these 2 guys probably had 50-50 equity at the beginning or something close to that. So it's not like Carlos has like 50% or plus equity right now, most likely. They probably had 50-50, and then as investors came in, they probably sold and sold and sold and sold, where, if I had to guess, I would assume random speculation, but I would guess Carlos probably has between like 30 to 10% of the company or something like that. I don't know for sure, but a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Carlos probably has 50%, and he could. That is possible, but to me that seems rather unlikely because I don't even think he started out with over 50% of this company. But yeah, people were asking like, hey, is he gonna have to sell? Is he just stepping down as a CEO, like the public-facing guy, and he's still gonna have a bunch of shares and get to profit off the future G2 and all that stuff? And I didn't really know, but what we're hearing from esports maniacos is that he was required to sell, and that they also claim that they're hearing he was on a blacklist of sorts by Riot. Obviously, Riot kept him and G2 out of the Valorant franchising, out of the Valorant partnership program. And they were hearing that, hey, Riot didn't really want to be in the Carlos business, and that maybe their choices were, hey, Carlos needs to sell his shares, or you're going to be out of the LEC as well. People are really comparing this to the Echo Fox situation, where Echo Fox had the options of, hey, you need to remove this like whatever investor, racist investor, or guy making racist remarks, whatever, or you are going to lose your LCS spot. And at that time, that investor, he was willing to go down with the ship. He said, that's fine. You guys can leave the LCS. I'm not selling. I'm staying in here, and we'll all go down together. And that's what happened. And it sounds like maybe that situation was happening again, where G2 was put in a position of, hey, you can have Carlos. He can still keep his shares, but you're gonna have to go down with the ship. Or hey, Carlos, you can sell his shares, and then G2 can continue on. Here was the Reddit post at that time. According to Esports Maniacos, Ocelot had to sell his shares of G2 in order to keep the team in the LEC again, which was very, very interesting. And I was glad we got some information about this because a ton of people were asking. I was wondering. People on Twitter were wondering. People on my YouTube video were wondering. But the story does not stop there. Then eventually we got this tweet from Veteran EU and a lot of other people saying, hey, this might have been mistranslated a little bit, might have been misquoted, might have been a little misrepresented. What Veteran says here is that people were scared of losing the G2 LEC spot. According to information that was shared with me, Riot told G2 Ocelot was on a blacklist. He can't take part in anything that concerns Riot, and it looks like Ocelot had to sell his G2 shares. So what they are saying there is not that Riot came to G2 with some kind of ultimatum of like, hey, you need to get Carlos out of here or you're going to be kicked out of the LEC. It sounds like the blacklist stuff, it sounds like was accurate. It sounds like they did potentially, at least what they're claiming, tell G2 that Carlos was on a blacklist and that, yeah, they weren't going to be taking part of anything. He wasn't going to be taking part in anything that concerned Riot. They did not say, hey, we were going to kick G2 out of the LEC, but it sounds like that's how G2 may have taken it, or G2 may have been scared and worried about potentially losing their LEC slot in the future, and then they maybe pushed for Carlos to ultimately sell his spots, or maybe recommended he sell his spots, maybe forcibly, maybe not, who knows. But it seems like that is what most people are going with now as the more accurate translation of this whole thing. This guy also chimed in and said, in the stream, he also said that Ocelot has been forcing the Riot rules too much with poaching, not allowing perks to sign a Fnatic clause in the contract, and this was the last straw for Riot. It wasn't only the Andrew Tate thing. Veteran then says, hey, you know, this is a big thing for me. There are loads of other things Riot should have come down hard on Ocelot specifically for. This is just a straw that broke the camel's back rather than a one-time thing. Social media is just allowed for the latter impression to win out. So again, it doesn't seem like this was just Andrew Tate related. Nothing like that. He didn't get taken out just for the Andrew Tate thing. Things like, you know, Carlos has been pushing the buttons of Riot for quite some time, always trying to walk the fine line, always trying to step over the line, you know, see where the exact barriers were. But again, it does sound like this is the more accurate interpretation of the whole thing. Not that Riot forced Carlos to sell, but that Riot was like, hey, you know, we're not really happy with Carlos. We're not really trying to be in the Carlos business. And G2 was like, do we want to risk our LEC slot or do we just want Carlos to sell? Obviously, they decided on the latter. This guy, you know, he tweeted, this is Luis Mira. I've never heard of this guy, but apparently he's the esports editor at Deserto. He said, according to Esports Maniacos, Riot Game has blacklisted Carlos and forced him to sell shares in G2. Esports Maniacos says, we recommend to watch the 40 minutes of talking. This topic is more complicated than forced him to. And that's where I said, you know, it does seem like that it was mistranslated, and then they eventually got the accurate translation. We also had this guy, Maximilian Peter Schmidt. This guy's like the ex-commissioner of the LEC. I think he's now higher up in the chain, but still very, very heavily involved with the LEC and just global Riot esports in general. He tweeted out, LEC update, hey everyone, I saw several false rumors regarding G2 and Carlos and wanted to clarify. The LEC has not requested Carlos to resign from G2 nor divest his ownership. We opened an investigation last week per our LEC rules, which is still ongoing. Best Max. Couple of interesting things there. Obviously, the biggest one, I think at least, the fact that the LEC is investigating into this whole G2 situation. I don't really know what they're going to investigate or find out. It seems a little bit strange to me. I don't know exactly what's going to come of all of this, but also the fact that the LEC did not request for Carlos to resign from G2, nor to divest his ownership. That doesn't mean a couple things here. Obviously, with how it is worded, the LEC did not request this. They did not say, hey, Carlos, you need to resign, or Carlos, you need to divest his ownership. But it doesn't say that they didn't blacklist Carlos. It doesn't say that they weren't happy with Carlos. It doesn't say that G2 couldn't have potentially lost their LEC slot in the future. It doesn't say, you know, that some heat or pressure might not have been put on G2 in general. I don't know. Again, you always have to be careful with these front-facing PR statements because they can say exactly what the people said is false, but that doesn't mean that it was entirely false or every single thing they said was false because obviously it sounds like G2 wanted Carlos to sell his shares for a reason. They were worried. They were scared. Now, maybe they were wrongly worried or wrongly scared or scared for no reason or, you know, scared of monsters under the bed or something like that. Maybe they're just being overly careful. Like, hey, we just lost a $15 million valued Valorant franchise spot. We also don't want to lose the LEC. That would be very, very silly. Or maybe they knew that, hey, losing the LEC slot is a real possibility if we keep this guy around. I don't know, but again, I don't think this statement from Maximilian necessarily means that there's no bit of truth to this whole situation at all. I don't know, but what does seem not necessarily true, but the claims that have not been refuted yet at this point are that Carlos has sold his G2 shares. That seems accurate, seems plausible, seems like a claim that has not been refuted by anyone, at least that I've seen so far, so we'll have to see. And also, the fact that Carlos might be on some kind of blacklist by Riot or the LEC or whoever, where they don't really want to be in the Carlos business anymore. Again, that has not necessarily been refuted in any of these statements. This guy just says that the LEC has not requested Carlos to resign from G2 nor divest his ownership. Doesn't mention the blacklist. Doesn't mention the fact that Riot or the LEC is maybe has Carlos in hot water. I don't know, but these are just some updates of a very, very crazy situation. It started out with this, and then this guy's coming out saying it's all false, and everyone's like, oh, well, wow, that was so stupid by Esports Maniacos. And it's like, no, it was probably just mistranslated. There probably is still some truth and some tidbits in here. I don't know, but very, very interesting. Some more Carlos drama coming out even as the days pass. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about anything we talked about in this video today. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hope we catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.